I'm Rahma Landi.
And I'm Paul Palelli. Welcome to 2021 in 30 minutes. This is our special year-end program where we're going to take a look back at all the memorable stories that made the news throughout the past year.
True. Now, on today's episodes, we are going to recap top stories from all over the world, including from Southeast Asia and also Indonesia.
That's right. And before we do so, we want to also send a warm year-end greetings to all of our viewers tuning in via Foxtel's Flash Australia, Macau Cable TV Channel 84, Vision Philippines Channel 58, and also Air Cable Philippines. All right, guys, let's start right away with our first story. As you may remember, back in the beginning of the year, the United States started the year in horror when on January 6th, Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol in Washington amidst the constitutional process in affirming President-elect Joe Biden. Now, this breach delayed the process as Senate and House members had to be evacuated.
Yes, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was sworn in as 46th U.S. President and also 49th Vice President on January 20th.
Trump supporters clashed with police and broke into the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. on January 6 as Congress was set to vote to affirm Joe Biden's win in the Electoral College. As demonstrators climbed steps and penetrated the Capitol, it quickly flew out of control. United States Capitol Police locked down the entire complex after protesters breached its confines and confronted law enforcement inside. Trump has urged his supporters to come to Washington to protest Congress' formal approval of Biden's win. Several Republican lawmakers have backed his calls despite there being no evidence of fraud or wrongdoing in the election. Responding to his supporters, which are storming and breaching the Capitol, Donald Trump released a video urging supporters to go home. However, in the video, he also made remarks about the quote-unquote rigged election.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
the
office of President of the United States.
Despite the disruption, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was inaugurated as United States President and Vice President on January 20th. In his first speech, President Joe Biden is calling on Americans to overcome their divisions and must end uncivil war.
That was certainly an odd start to President Joe Biden's campaign as new President of the United States, but that was also taking place very early in the year. Now, it was in January. Let's move forward a little bit onto March, where here in Indonesia, two suicide bombers launched a deadly attack on Palm Sunday, which took place on March 28 in Makassar, South Sulawesi.
The two individuals were spotted riding a motorbike into the church and detonated themselves after they were unable to pass security in the front of the church. Now, 20 people were injured because of the attack. Now, from Makassar, Indonesia, we are going to take you to the United Kingdom. The Buckingham Palace announced the death of Prince Philip, aged 99, on April 9th.
The Duke of Edinburgh, the longest-serving royal consort in British history, was at the Queen's side for more than her 6 decades of reign. The government urged the public not to gather or leave tributes at the royal residences amidst the coronavirus pandemic.
Now, on April 17th, the British royal family came together to walk the short journey from Windsor Castle to St. George's Chapel in a funeral ceremony that honored Prince Philip's lifetime of service to the UK, the Crown, and his wife of 73 years, Queen Elizabeth II.
We can only hope to stay with our spouse for such a long-lasting marriage. And I do remember one iconic moment later on in the year as it was supposed to be Prince Philip's birthday and the Queen sat on her own, and that picture will always be iconic to me as she just chose to spend it with herself and remember him for all the good times they had together.
Now, moving on to the next story, to the Middle East, where conflicts were inevitable after Israel ordered dozens of Palestinian families to leave their homes in Sheikh Jarrah to make way for Jewish settlers on May 2nd.
Indeed, and conflict swiftly escalated after the Sheikh Jarrah residents protested on the streets of Palestine, which is part of Jerusalem. Clashes occurred in the holiest mosque for Muslims, Al-Aqsa, and later on May 21st, Hamas and Israel finally announced a ceasefire.
On May 10th, more than a dozen tear gas canisters and stun grenades landed in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of Islam's holiest sites, as police and protesters face off inside the walled compound that surrounds it. The confrontation happened after weeks of mounting tensions between Palestinians and Israeli troops in the old city of Jerusalem. The tensions have been fueled by the planned eviction of dozens of Palestinians from the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood by Israeli settlers. After 11 days of fighting, Israel and Hamas announced ceasefire across the Gaza Strip border on Friday, May 21st. At least 243 people, including more than 100 women and children, were killed in Gaza, according to its health ministry. In Israel, 12 people, including 2 children, were killed.
Now let's move forward in time once again for our next recap, specifically to August the 15th, when the Taliban officially took over Afghanistan as they entered Kabul and occupied all governmental headquarters, including the presidential palace.
Now, thousands of people were left blocking the gates of Kabul airport desperately to flee the country. Now, on August 15, thousands of people gathered outside the gates of Kabul airport. Now, however, many did not appear to have passports. The Taliban had sought to portray themselves as more moderate than they imposed as straight from Islamic rule in the late 1990s. Now, nonetheless, many Afghans remain skeptical.
And on September the 30th, Taliban authorities quickly dispersed a protest by women calling for educational rights. 6 women stood outside a government school holding posters that stated education was essential for human identity. They called for the access to education not to be made political.
Now, elsewhere, a group of girls who took part in an international robotic competition began their life-changing journey by leaving the country. Now, the girls, who ranged from 15 to 18 years, had patented several groundbreaking inventions, including a landmine detector. They all flew to Doha, Qatar, to begin a new chapter without their families. Now, moving on to our next story, climate crisis became more apparent all over the world this year.
That's right, Rahma. Heat waves in North America and floods in several European countries combined to claim 125 lives, while another 302 were killed in the Henan province of China. On July 12th, the U.S. and Canadian West Coast all saw record temperature levels as the sizzling heat wave continued. In Sierra Nevada, wildfires tore through bone-dry timber and prompted authorities to evacuate a community across the state line. Fires also ravaged Oregon, Arizona, and Idaho.
Now, on July 16th, at least 110 people were killed by devastating floods across parts of western Germany. Now, in Belgium, flash floods followed days of heavy rainfall, which turned streams and streets into raging torrents that swept away cars and caused houses to collapse across the region.
Meanwhile, heavy flooding inundated areas of central China on July the 20th, following unusually heavy rains, with the subway system in the city of Zhengzhou, Henan province, beset with rushing water. Provincial authorities reported a total of 302 people killed in the province. Seems to me one common thread throughout all the news that we reported all year long has to do with weather systems and climate change.
Yes, and still talking about climate change or climate crisis, from November the 1st to the 12th, world leaders attended the United Nations Climate Change Conference. Now, 200 nations accepted a contingent climate compromise aimed at keeping a key global warming target alive, but it contained a last-minute change that some high officials called a watering down of crucial language about Ko.
That's right, I completely remember that, Rahma. And as expected during the event, activists staged various protests demanding real action from world leaders.
On November the 1st, COP26 host British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcomed Indonesian President Joko Widodo upon arrival in Glasgow. Widodo delivered a national statement before world leaders at the conference. One of the topics the president raised in his remarks was the call for global cooperation in tackling climate change. On November the 6th, thousands of people, including several indigenous activist groups from Latin America and the Pacific Islands, gathered in Glasgow for a protest march aimed at maintaining pressure on COP26 negotiators. And on November the 9th, climate activists from the Glasgow Action Team dressed as world leaders and held an artistic protest on Forth and Clyde Canal. The event ended on November the 12th with several countries saying they were deeply disappointed by the change promoted by India to phase down rather than to phase out coal power, the single biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions.
You know, Rama, we can't talk about natural disasters of 2021 without mentioning what happened on September 19th, rather, when a volcano on Spain's Atlantic Ocean island of La Palma erupted after a week-long buildup of seismic activity.
Now, the Canary Island Volcanology Institute reported the eruption on Cumbre Vieja, which last erupted in 1971.
Molten rock from the September 19th eruption has ruined over 1,500 buildings. And up until December 4th, though, there have been no deaths directly linked to this eruption.
Yes, and speaking of volcanic mountain, it's not just Cumbre Vieja. Here in Indonesia on December the 4th, a massive eruption took place on Mount Semeru in Lumajang, East Java, cutting off the road access between the Regency and also Malang.
And over a week later, at least dozens had been confirmed dead because of the eruption, and that had also led to thousands being displaced.
Ya Allah, Buri Allah. Allahu Akbar.
On December the 4th, Mount Semeru in Lumajang, East Java erupted, cutting off the main road to Madiun. In addition, many residents of the Regency's Pronojiwo district are suffering from breathing difficulties after inhaling volcanic ash. The National Disaster Management Agency, or BNPB, has confirmed at least 48 fatalities in the disaster. It has also led to 6,500 residents displaced. The government is planning to build 20 temporary housing complexes for refugees. State-owned Enterprises Minister Erick Thohir announced the plan during a visit to several shelters on December the 12th.
Satu, bagaimana memastikan realokasi di tanah yang kebetulan dimiliki oleh perhutani. Nanti kita tadi juga kami dan Pak Bupati juga sudah telepon Ibu Menteri Lingkungan Hidup, Ibu Menteri, Ibu Situ, terima kasih. Beliau langsung mendukung tadi, tinggal menunggu suratnya. Lalu yang kedua, kita juga melakukan tadi pembangunan MCK sementara karena pada saat ini tentu kesulitan air bersih dan tentu hal-hal yang lain.
An unfortunate way to end the year. Obviously, there were weather systems that kind of affected how the eruptions affected all those residents that are around the general area. Heavy rainfalls made it difficult for the search and rescue teams, and we do wish nothing but the best for the people around Mount Semeru. In the meantime, we're going to take a short break here, but when we return, we have highlights from around Southeast Asia, so stay tuned to 2021 in 30 minutes on See Today.
Hey guys, welcome back to the 2021 in 30 minutes. Now, after we take you to look at our top news from all over the world, now it is the time for our reporter, Andira Putri, and also video journalist Anita Putri to recap what have been happening here in Southeast Asia.
All right, so many things happened throughout this past year, from political unrest to a hopeful solidarity, 2021 was surely a historic time for Southeast Asia. Let's have a look at it together.
In Southeast Asia, 2021 is a year of resistance and breakthrough. A lot of things happened, from youth movement, anti-government protests, to a change of leader. Despite all things, ASEAN countries managed to maintain their solidarity.
In Myanmar, the 1st of February had started a year-long resistance, sparked by the arrest of the state councillor Aung San Suu Kyi and other leaders of the National League for Democracy Party. Military junta led by General Min Aung Hlaing orchestrated the arrest and started a coup. People led by health workers, civil servants, and students protested the arrest as they felt that democracy is threatened.
On late April, ASEAN addressed Myanmar issue at a summit in Jakarta. Leaders from 10 countries came, including General Min Aung Hlaing from Myanmar. From this summit, ASEAN have agreed on 5 points. First, the immediate cessation of violence in Myanmar. Then, the constructive dialogue among all parties. The third is the appointment of the special envoy, the providing of the humanitarian aid, and lastly, the visit by the special envoy and delegation to Myanmar. Yet, it was not enough.
People of Myanmar expressed their disappointments since more than 700 people have died due to the conflict. The resolution also did not mention about the release of political prisoners, including Aung San Suu Kyi. The rallies continued, however. At the end of December, Aung San Suu Kyi herself was sentenced to 2 years in prison by the junta's court. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, at the end of April, the country received support from Southeast Asian countries such as Malaysia and Singapore to search for KRI Nanggala 402, which had been missing after doing torpedo launching practice on 21st of April in Bali Sea. It then declared sinking at 24th of April with 53 personnel on board. To help the searching process, Malaysia sent MV Mega Bhakti and Singapore has MV Swift Rescue.
Moving on to Malaysia. On 20th of August, Ismail Sabri Yaakob was appointed as the new Prime Minister. King Sultan Abdullah chose him after receiving support from the majority of the parliament.
Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob replaced Muhyiddin Yassin, who resigned after losing support from the parliament due to his inability to handle COVID-19 pandemic. This was the third change of ruler after the 2018 election and also a sign of the return of the United Malays National Organization or UMNO to power.
Unrest also happened in Thailand as anti-government protests continued and peaked in October to November. Mostly organized by the youth, they demanded the reduction of the monarch's authority and the resignation of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha.
Some rallies were done peacefully, while some others often resulted in violence. The Thai court then ruled that the 3 protesters' leaders are Non Nampa, Panupong Jatnok, and Panusaya Siti Jarawatanaku have found guilty of planning to overthrow the king. Meanwhile, Thailand Prime Minister still rules the country.
As for the Philippines, they are getting ready for the next presidential election. The political maps have been more visible since November. The current leader, Rodrigo Duterte, is ineligible to bid as a candidate. Philippines Constitution banned him to run for the second time.
President Duterte was planned to run for a senator, but he withdrew following the withdrawal of his aide Senator Christopher Bongo from the presidential race in December. The president himself is also currently under International Criminal Court investigation for his oppressive war on drugs. Duterte's presence is still prominent on the 2022 Philippines presidential election as his daughter Sara Duterte Carpio will run for the vice president. Sara Duterte Carpio will accompany Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the son of the late Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos. They will face other strong candidates, including former world champion boxer Manny Pacquiao.
The next Philippines presidential election will take place on 9th of May 2022. In this country, the president and vice president were elected separately. 2021 is surely a challenging year for Southeast Asia. But again, it proves how Asian nations become stronger every year. Andira Putri and Anita Putri for See Today.
And that was a recap of Southeast Asia in 2021. Thank you, Andira Putri and Anita Putri, for their coverage. We are going to take a short break here, but 2021 in 30 minutes. We'll be back after this.
Now, in the meantime, don't forget to follow our social media accounts if you haven't already. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and also YouTube at See Today News. Stay with us.
Welcome back, everyone, to 2021 in 30 minutes. Still talking all about the world news that happened this past year and recapping the more important moments. And being in these uniforms, actually, just reminds me of all the tireless work that our journalists, our reporters, always doing different coverages from different parts of the country as well. And just take a moment to thank them all for all their hard work this past year.
Thank you very much, guys.
Right. Now, 2021 has been an exciting year for all of us as See Today celebrated its one-year anniversary.
Now, See Today became the official host broadcaster for Indonesia's Independence Day at the Merdeka Palace. See Today's proudly presented numerous stunning cameras work for Independence Day ceremonies, starting from the national flag hoisting troop or Paskibraka flag rising ceremony until the stunning maneuvers from F-16 fighters, jets flying in formation.
And See Today also succeeded to record the Indonesian Air Force deploying helicopters to fly a giant national flag over the skies of Jakarta. What a great moment that was. I think the most memorable one for me was the flyby by the
Yes,
flight.
I can still recall that because my kids, they ran outside the house. They wanted to see, there you go, the F-16.
Right. The kids love airplanes. Yes. Well, so do adults, I guess. Anyway, let's talk about internet sensations now, which is still becoming one of the top things to talk about this year.
Yes, no, just like this meme over here. Now I can say that this Paul is my favorite.
I love that one. I remember that. That was when he was sitting with his mittens, and those mittens sold out immediately.
I know, he's so comfy with it.
Well, here's one I remember from earlier on in the year. I believe it was in March or May when the boat, the Evergreen, got stuck in the Evergiven, rather, got stuck in the Suez Canal. So this is my COVID depression and anxiety over the past couple of years, and this is me going for a daily walk. Just puts all that to an end. I love that.
Guys, in 2021, politician Bernie Sanders has become meme due to his appearance when he attended Biden's inauguration. Now, while everyone was actually dressed in their finest attire, Sanders rolled up wearing a simple oversized winter coat and also cute mittens. Now, he sat among the audiences with his hands crossed, slouching on his chair.
And so many memes came out of this sitting position. I love it. They got so creative with this one. And let's just face it, Bernie was just cold. Give him a break. He needed his mittens and his heavy jacket. It was a cold day. Now, the one that I showed you guys, let's talk about that one for a bit. It stole everyone's attention. It was actually in March 23rd of 2021. A giant container ship, about the length of 4 football fields, was trapped across the Suez Canal. That was a global disaster, actually, since billions of dollars worth of goods were unable to reach their destinations. But let's look at the bright side. people were really inspired to create some really funny memes.
I know. And leaving the royal family to marry common guy seems still become a hot issue in the 2021. Now, after Harry and also Meghan, Japan's Princess Mako decided to forsake her royal title after tying the knot with a commoner, Kei Komuro, in Tokyo. Now, sadly, this happy news became internet sensations, and also even in Japan, some people despise the idea that, the royal princess is married to a commoner.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yes. Now, another unique moment, Paul, that captured the world's attention is a herd of elephant migration in China.
Yeah, I remember this one. After a 17-month-long journey, China's wandering elephants that had escaped a natural reserve in Pu'er City in Yunnan province in December of last year finally headed home in August. After conquering a 1,300-kilometer trek, the 14 wild elephants heading towards their habitat in southwest China, more than 410 emergency personnel, including 14 drones, were deployed to monitor the herd. That's how you get these beautiful shots.
Right. So it remains unclear why the elephants embarked on their trek. Now, experts from World Animal Protection said possible reasons could include lack of food supply, a rise in the elephant population, and mostly, importantly, is loss of habitat. Now, all of the animals are reported to be healthy, and no person has been injured in encounters with them.
Yeah, this is rare to see a herd of elephants. They generally don't suddenly migrate,
Right.
And especially that much of a distance away.
Yes.
Obviously, I would think that it's probably the loss of habitat. They're trying to find a new home, and hopefully they're all able to reach safely.
Right.
What a beautiful way to end our program, but unfortunately for us, our 30 minutes is up, and that was your World News Roundup for 2021.
Now, as we are heading to 2022, let's hope that the upcoming year will be a lot better than this year,
Amen.
okay? Now, may you have a good health, lots of happiness, and also a great new year, everybody. Always remember to implement the health protocol as we are still in the middle of the pandemic.
Absolutely. And hey, don't forget to stay tuned on See Today, as we're going to continue delivering you news from Indonesia, Southeast Asia, and around the world. Because
See Indonesia, see the world, see
today.
today.